everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 1Million by 1Million podcast. Today's edition is a focus on our Thought Leaders in Corporate Innovation series, and I have a very special guest here, Paul Daugherty from Accenture. He leads technology and innovation for a long time at Accenture. Welcome, Paul. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Ramana. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
So tell us a bit about how you are thinking about corporate innovation at Accenture, just from a broad framework point of view.
Yeah, no, the role I've got, as you said, is I've got the role of Chief Technology Officer and Chief Innovation Officer, and the way my job and my role is shaped is to look ahead a couple of years and make sure that we're moving, always moving Accenture's business to, in the direction technology is going, so that we're even better positioned and even more relevant in the future than we are today. And, the way I think about it is Accenture is a big company. We have about 440,000 people, about $35 billion US dollars in revenue. So it's a big organization, and we're also a growth-oriented company. So we're growing substantially every year. And the way I think about, one way I think about my job is every year we have to create a couple $1 billion of new revenue, generally speaking, in technology that didn't exist a few years ago because of the pace of technology change. So one way I think of part of my job is how do we create a couple unicorns equivalent, of revenue every year based on, the fast evolving technology environment.
Great. So from a goal point of view, that's very concrete and very daunting, actually. So how do you structure the organization to deliver to that goal?
Yeah, it's a great question. I tell you, we're always evolving that. The way we do it, we're learning a lot as we go. So I think the first lesson I'd say is you got to continue to evolve and innovate in how you structure yourself in the environment we're in. The phrase I use is there's no finish line to innovation. It's not like we have one technology wave, like say the internet or client server, and then we're done. We're in an era where it's defined by one continual exponential technology wave after another. The exponential combinatorial revolution that many talk about, including us, which means that there is no finish line for innovation. It means that you have to have the culture and mechanism and structure in your organization to continue to innovate. And in our industry, which is technology services, we're the largest technology services firm globally. That means that we have to be ahead in innovation because we really see our mission now as to be the leading company to bring innovation to help our clients transform using technology. So the leading company bringing innovation, helping our clients transform. So things we do is I'd broadly maybe define the structure in 5 areas. I'll just go through 5 things real quick, and you can decide if we want to dive into some of these more.
Yep.
The first point I'd highlight is we have a vision that we continually work on and we release every year. And our vision is our view on where technology is going, and we take a position. We're opinionated. We discard some things. We bet more on other things. And that's our view on where technology is going. So we have a vision that drives everything we do. The second point, and we may want to go more into this one, is we have something we call our innovation architecture, which is a business architecture that we've got that goes from front-end research through driving revenue in our business. And it's a set of capabilities that we've invested a good deal in to again, go from idea or research into results. So I can talk more about that. The third thing we focused a lot on is the culture around innovation. Mm-hmm. And we believe in both the top-down and a bottom-up process for innovation. Again, we've got 440,000 people, so it would be naive to think that a small number of us at the top of the organization are going to define all the innovation. We want to tap the creativity and potential of all of our people. And I can talk to you a little bit about innovation ninjas and various things we're doing to try to empower the bottom up in addition to driving the top down and put together that blended culture. The fourth aspect of our innovation structure is our ecosystem. We're a technology services company, but we're also the largest partner of companies like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Salesforce, Workday, many, many others. So the way I look at Accenture is we're a platform for delivering the best innovation from all those companies to our clients. So we leverage the innovation, our partnerships, and an open innovation approach with the ecosystem. And then finally, the fifth part of it is investment. You can't just innovate and be a leader in innovation by just telling people to be more innovative. You have to invest in a disciplined way and in the right way in different stages of innovation. And at Accenture, we invest somewhere on the order of $760 million a year, and it's an increasing number in research and development, and in another $1 billion a year in training our people in innovation in these new areas. And we think that that ability to invest in innovation is really what sets the execution of innovation, companies that can execute on innovation, apart from those that just, think about innovation or try innovation.
So there's a lot of things you said in there that are worth double-clicking down on. Let me start pulling some of it out and exploring further. So one thing you said right at the outset is that we are in a continuously evolving industry, and we absolutely have to practice continuous innovation. And one of the ways you do that is through grassroots innovation across your 440,000 employee base. What is the structure of that? How do you engage this very large base of talent in the innovation philosophy or in innovation agenda?
Yeah, Accenture is really defined by a kind of a set of businesses that we have with where our people work in different businesses. We've got a strategy business that's like the management consulting strategy house kind of capability. We have a big team that does that. We have a consulting part of our organization. We have a digital business. We have technology, which is a large part of our business, which is building and deploying technology. And then we have operations, which is infrastructure, cloud, BPO, things like that. So it varies a little bit by part of the organization because each one of those groups has a different purpose. But broadly speaking, what we try to do is harness the best ideas from different from people and different sources we have around the organization. And what we try to do is be able to collect up the best innovation and incent that innovation. So, for example, one thing we do is we have something called the Greater Than Awards, which is a recognition program where we reward the best innovators at any level in the organization. It could be from a brand new joiner through a more experienced person who's come up with an idea and something innovative. And we have a rigorous, and very large and prominent awards program moderated by our Chief Executive Officer that rewards and incents people to innovate. There's incentives and rewards around that too. We also have things like, sorry.
Can I ask you a question on what you just said? We work with a bunch of product companies that have that kind of process, including 1Mby1M has a program called Incubator in a Box, which some of our partners are using to run their own internal innovation programs. Now, for a product company, the idea is to come up with new product ideas that are innovative and so forth. What is the agenda for a services organization like yours when it comes to innovation?
Great question. So there's two different, broadly speaking, two different forms of innovation. One is, somebody come up with an innovation in a new way to do our business. And an example of that is, several years ago, we had some very interesting innovations that came out of one of our team in a new way to do, DevOps and continuous integration in assembling solutions. It came out of a team that had a very challenging, client situation they were working with, and they figured out a new way to integrate a set of tools and develop a new capability. Again, it wasn't top-down research coming from me or somebody else in Accenture. It was a team innovating, bringing in some new tools, integrating them in a different way, and it allowed us to deliver better for that client. And then we took that and we said, well, we can take that and apply that to a lot of other work we do. So it was an innovation that we then spread across Accenture. So some of the innovation we see is innovation in the way we work, which is that example. Mm-hmm. Other innovations are innovations. Yeah, process innovation. Yeah, good way of putting it. Other innovation is innovative applications of technology for our client. a good for a specific client problem. A good example here is a team in working in Asia, in Indonesia, actually in this case, who came up with a very innovative idea for an agricultural producer in Indonesia. And this is going back a few years. They were using drones to analyze soil conditions and growing conditions with video analytics and other AI technologies, and came up with the idea. The team itself came up with the idea. Again, it wasn't top-down driven research. But we took the idea, we worked on it in our research labs with that team, and then we took it back out to the client. We're able to help that client innovate a whole new way of using advanced technology to dramatically improve their growing, the productivity for growing the produce they were growing. So that's more innovation in the product or the outcome we're delivering to a client versus, as you said, the innovation in the process and the way we do things.
So now that actually gives me a segue into what I'm sure is a big part of your innovation process, is to keep track of what's happening in terms of new technology in the outside world, in terms of the startups and the people who are coming up with new technologies. This example that you gave in Indonesia is to create that solution is to put together a whole lot of different technologies to deliver such a solution. So I imagine you have a process to vet startups and decide which ones you want to work with. What is that process?
Yes, that's great. And it's part of the innovation architecture. So I'll come back and talk more broadly about the other aspects of the innovation architecture. But one aspect of our, one step in our innovation architecture is Accenture Ventures. And Accenture Ventures really has two parts. It's a corporate VC capability. So we invest as a strategic investor in startups and innovation and incubators, accelerators, all sorts of things. That's what Accenture Venture does. But we also have another component of Accenture Ventures, which is open. We call it, for lack of a better term, we just call it open innovation, which is our program for working with all of the entrepreneurs, accelerators, innovators, incubators, startups, et cetera, that we can find. So we've got a team that's focused specifically on open innovation. We currently have over 3,000 startups that we've met with. We've curated, we understand what they do, and many of them we've worked with and taken to clients, and that number is ever growing and growing very rapidly. And we, again, curate them into a framework so that we understand for any given startup, what stage are they at, what stage is their product at, how ready are they to go to the types of large corporate clients that we work with, what industry geography do they specialize in, what's the unique nature of their technology innovation, and we have a system that we track all that in, so that when we use the term bridge maker, so we track all that, we meet with startups continuously to understand this. We invest in a subset of them, a small number, through our Accenture Ventures capability. But the real difference maker, I think, for the startup community and entrepreneurs and for our clients is that we can be the bridge maker. Then, when a client comes in with a challenge for us, and I'll use an example of a large retailer that wanted to expand and go into agricultural products. They were kind of retail around agricultural products, and as they expanded their market. That's an area they didn't know well. So they came in for an innovation session to talk to us about it. We identified about a dozen potential startups that could help them accelerate into that market sector very, very rapidly. And it turns out we ended up using a number of those to quickly ramp up and create a new business for this retailer. A kind of win-win. The client, Accenture was able to do some very innovative work for our clients by doing that matching. The client got an acceleration in creating this new business. And we were able to accelerate the growth of these startups by giving them a channel, and introducing them and connecting them to a client or to a company they might never have met otherwise. And it was one example of what we try to do every day in working, in that bridge maker role between the large corporates. We tend to work with the Global 2000, so it's the kind of large corporate government organizations and the entrepreneurs and startup community.
Very interesting. This is probably something we should start collaborating on and make sure that our startups get access to your program.
I think that'd be a really good area to explore.
So we'll definitely follow up on that. Now, switching gears a little bit, in the last I would say 9 months or so. We've probably had 100 investors in the very early stages of the investment game come onto our podcast and talk about what they're doing, what they're looking for, what they're investing in, what are the highlights of their portfolio, and so forth. And the team, I always ask them, in the last 15 months, what have you seen in your deal flow that would be representative of the trends that are going on in the startup industry? And unanimously, the one thing that comes up over and over and over again in recent times is artificial intelligence. And I imagine
Yes.
for you, this is a huge trend.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
talk to us about it. I know you've written a book on this topic, and so talk to us about what's happening in AI and how are you folding all of that into your innovation strategy at Accenture.
Great question. I know I'm talking to an expert here because I know you've got a big deep background in this as well. AI I describe as, and I studied AI, many years ago, back in the 80s in college, in university, and so it's changed a lot since then, certainly. But AI has really come on the scene in the last 5 years because of it. I think a lot of you and a lot of your listeners probably know the story, but there was some fundamental advances about 6 or 7 years ago in deep learning algorithms that allowed us to take deep learning to a new level, combined with computing advances like GPU and storage and data advances that really led to the takeoff of AI in a big way. And now I describe AI as the alpha trend that we see in our business. And I'll just state, for the record here, that I've been at Accenture 32 years and in the industry, about that amount of time. And I've been through, everything from punch cards to relational database to client server to internet to mobility to IoT and everything else around that stuff, cloud computing, et cetera. And we've never seen a trend grow as fast as AI is growing right now in terms of impact, number of startups, venture capital inflow, revenue to our business, speed with which we're acquiring and training AI talent. And we have the 5th largest pool of AI talents in Accenture, based on some independent surveys that have been done. So it's a big business for us. It's grown really fast. And so the challenge for us and for our clients is, how do you deploy AI in the right way to drive business value? How do you avoid some of the pitfalls? Because there are some pitfalls around, some of the incidents that have been in the news recently. Issues around responsible application of AI, issues around data bias, explainability with compared to GDPR and other concerns. So lots of concerns. But the reason we wrote the book, just a quick comment on that, is we wanted to provide a management guide to how to navigate all those challenges that businesses could accelerate their adoption of AI, because we believe the potential of AI is so huge. So that's what we see in our business. So what we're looking for from the startup and entrepreneurial community is, better solutions that can accelerate, the speed to which we can, drive value, deliver value to our larger clients. I met with a very interesting company yesterday, for example, who had a machine learning, very interesting machine learning algorithm to sort out criminal fraud in the banking environment. So, which is an area that many people are looking at, but they had a very interesting kind of novel approach that I hadn't seen from others in AI. And I think there's tremendous opportunity now for entrepreneurs to combine AI and some business and industry knowledge and clever use of data to really create some exciting new businesses. So it's an interesting time in technology, and it's, like I said, it's the fastest growing part of our business at the moment.
And from a innovation process point of view, how do you look at this? Is it mostly the actual technology is mostly coming from these startups, and you're folding them into the particular industry vertical practice area or horizontal practice area, wherever you see the applicability?
Well, there's kind of a couple big different domains or tiers maybe of innovation that we see. So we work with the big platform companies, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and I'd add Watson into the mix there. They're creating platforms at scale, innovating very rapidly.
Yes.
And a lot of innovation there. We're seeing some startups then use some of that technology to build businesses around it. So I think that's one area, and a tremendous amount of innovation coming directly out of those companies. And the way you can access like the Google Vision API and then create really exciting new applications around it is really creates some amazing opportunity for entrepreneurs. But then we see tremendous innovation from entrepreneurs bringing new approaches in, new pattern recognition for radiology diagnostics, all sorts of things where there's great domains for startups to bring in new and novel knowledge. I think the challenge that we're finding is there's so much innovation and so many startups jumping into the fray now. There's I'd say chatbots, virtual agents it's amazing how many new entrepreneurs and innovators are jumping into that space. The challenge for our clients is how do they figure out who's real, who's not, which technology is ready to go and which is not. So that's where I think it's important for entrepreneurs working in this area to really be able to be crisp and clear in understanding or explaining kind of what they do and connecting with their customers' needs and the customer pain points that are out there, because it's becoming a very crowded space because of all the activity.
So, as you probably know, we have this Thought Leaders in Artificial Intelligence series on the blog as well, and we routinely get people who are working on either new startup technology or have different kinds of vantage points using maybe some of the technologies from the Microsofts and the Googles and so forth. So we've looked at this problem from many different angles, and a few things have stood out for me, and I'd like to get your perspective on these. There are two industries where it seems to me that those industries today cannot function without artificial intelligence. One of them is cybersecurity, and the second one is online advertising. And if you look at either of those, it pretty much they have to be completely automated, and they have to bring in the power of AI to do what they do. Is that an accurate statement from your point of view?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's those online advertising really was built on AI. If you look at how the platforms were built, so a lot of the innovations in AI came out of there or were applied there very early. So recommendation engines, dynamic advertising and things like that are clearly very dependent on AI. So absolutely. And cybersecurity, I think, is a little different in that AI evolved in there because there's a dynamic where bad actors are very advanced and very well equipped to use AI. So that means in cyber defense, you're really good at adapting and using AI as well, because you need AI to kind of match and defend against the bad actors who are using AI. So absolutely, those are two domains where it really is necessary to be really at the top of the game with AI.
And are those domains areas in which Accenture has big activity?
Yeah, both are big areas for us. Online advertising in general is a big business for us. We have a part of our business called Accenture Interactive, which is a very large business. Ad Age, the advertising magazine, just named Accenture Interactive the #1 global digital agency. So we are the largest and kind of leading digital agency from that perspective, and do a lot of work specifically in this area, and a lot of advanced AI in a lot of different ways in that business. And that's a business, to my point on growing unicorns, that business didn't exist 6 years ago in Accenture, and it's now roughly, I might get the number exactly wrong, so I won't say it, but it's a multi-billion-dollar business that's growing very rapidly, and again, #1 digital agency. So yeah, that's a big business. Cybersecurity is a very big business for us as well. Again, one of our very large, business, well over $1 billion of revenue coming from that area. So another very, very big area that where, again, the trick in cybersecurity is to get out of the mentality that you're trying to keep people out and use clever techniques with artificial intelligence to understand where the penetrations are and how to prevent the bad actors from doing more harm. So that's a lot of our focus within cybersecurity.
Now, slightly different sector where I think some of your ideas that you've presented in the book, which I haven't read it yet, but I just got a copy this morning of the manuscript, so I just kind of flipped through it on my computer. You are talking about AI being an augmentation factor as opposed to a displacement factor in various workflows. So I think the classic one that fits that bill would be in healthcare, and the whole, doctors working with patients and electronic medical records and so forth. And it's actually a big frustration area for me as a consumer to watch how badly medical systems use technology and data. Could you comment on that, where, from your point of view, I'm sure you're working with health systems and various, as clients, where is the problem? Why is this not moving faster? I mean, I'm very pleased to see how cybersecurity is moving. I'm very pleased to see how online advertising is moving, but why is healthcare not moving as fast?
I'll just rattle through a few other areas that are moving fast, and I'll get to healthcare. The other areas we see moving very rapidly beyond the ones you mentioned are customer care and customer service generally. A lot of really interesting innovations. Supply chain, which is one people don't focus on too much, supply chain and logistics. Some very interesting things happening. Compliance and risk, a big area. And then R&D, using it in R&D in areas, in industries like pharmaceutical and life sciences. So those are some areas we're seeing a lot of activity happening with AI. But healthcare, you're right. Healthcare would be on that list as well. And I think the challenge with healthcare is just the nature of the industry. There's, again, we see AI being applied in certain parts of the industry, like, drug discovery process, clinical trials, and things like that. Then in when you get into the care provision area, the provider type of health market, I think it's just it's probably a couple of issues there. One is just the number of participants that you have in the market with providers and payers, and in the nature of the industry, and some of the complexity around medical records and access to information, and concerns about data privacy and the like. But we're seeing some interesting advances. The advances we're seeing in areas like radiology, some of the diagnostic advances driven by AI. We're working with some companies on better, using AI and other technology to do better post-operative care for patients. So once you leave the hospital, how do we make sure you don't end up back in the hospital, which is a big issue, for
very
many patients.
Yeah.
And so, but we found ways to use artificial intelligence and to check on check on certain things in the right way and try to prevent that from happening. So I think there's a lot of advances happening there. It's an industry that is more fragmented industry, which means it takes more time sometimes for the solutions to deploy at scale in an industry like that. But I think you hit on the right thing, though. Healthcare is where there's huge benefits for AI. If you think about the potential of AI to help with new types of treatments, there's been some very interesting research and work done with treating depression patients, children with autism, many other types of things where AI plus a human, which is again what we write about in the book, the AI plus human capability can really unlock a lot of new jobs, professions, and better health outcomes and care for people. So I think we're just at the start of seeing that kind of development.
Well, my read is that on that topic, that is the industry where AI can augment as opposed to displace, because there are a lot of industries where AI is going to end up displacing lots of jobs. But I think in healthcare, there is this possibility of enabling lots of people with perhaps not as advanced skills, but can use AI to be able to bring healthcare to a much larger, broader swath of people.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And it's same or even more true, I would say, in developing markets and in other parts of the world where you need to multiply. You don't have enough radiologists, you don't have enough primary care professionals, et cetera. So I think you're absolutely right. But on the jobs issue, that is what we wrote the book about, called Human Plus Machine, and the subtitle is Reimagining Work in the Age of AI, because we think you need, the whole point of the book is you need to think about work differently, and it's more about this pairing of human plus machine to create new categories of jobs, and we identify a bunch of new categories of jobs, and healthcare is, offers a lot of opportunity for this in particular. But one of the things we found is there's a lot of concern about all the jobs AI will displace, and it will displace, as you said, it'll displace many jobs. We agree kind of, with numbers along the lines of what the OECD report just came out with this week, which said on the order of 10% of jobs really at risk of being eliminated. And it's the issue is really the jobs that are being transformed by AI. So the job is not eliminated, but the person needs to, new skills to do their job. And that's why we focus a lot in the book on reskilling. In our Accenture work with our clients, we're focused a lot on that reskilling issue, because even in call centers, we're finding companies don't need to or want to get rid of all the people in the call center. They want to free up people's time so that they can spend more time making the customer happier, selling other products to the customer, et cetera, increasing customer satisfaction, and offload routine tasks to chatbots and virtual agents and such. So it's really kind of a combination of equipping people to do more that we think is where a lot of the potential of AI comes in. So certainly will be jobs displaced, but
there's an IQ gap, I think, which is very concerning and complicated to bridge, right? I mean, if I look at, I'm originally from India, and obviously I've tracked the evolution of the Indian IT industry, and a large part of that industry, as you know very well, is in low-end business process outsourcing. And I have seen, in our Thought Leaders in AI series, I've seen so many applications that are basically, you put a piece of software in and 4,000 people are out of their jobs, or 5,000 people are out of their jobs. And this is already starting to flow through the Indian BPO industry, and the projections for the number of job losses for this year, I think, is 500,000, and so on and so forth. So I think this is, now, if you have a very low IQ person or a modest IQ person, you can't really expect that person to become now this very savvy, capable of doing things of much higher order. And that's where the reskilling or retooling is very challenging.
Yeah, well, I think the thing we have to look at also is where you apply technology to help the people transition. Because we have a large business in India, as well, with the nature of our workforce, and we're actually, we found that the workforce actually has a lot of opportunity there, because certain categories of what we do are going away more quickly, like test cycle execution, for example, was something a lot of people used to do. Now you can automate a lot of that. So the people that we had that used to do test execution, we've been, for a while, retraining them to do more test design and other things that are still necessary and in demand. So the challenge is, how can you use more automated tools to do that? One thing we've developed in our labs and as an experiment, but it's turning out to be very interesting, and we're now scaling it up, is we developed a machine learning based tool that could look at anybody's resume. And we had a lot of data to train it on, because we had so many people. We receive millions of resumes a year. But we could look at a resume and say, given the person's experience and given other experience, other information we track about the person, what's their risk of irrelevance of their skills in the short term? And we could say, well, this individual, their job might not be as in demand in 2 years. But then we could also say, and this was something for our employees to use. Then the employee could say, well, what should I do? And it would look at their skills. What are the adjacent skills that you can more easily learn? And then how do you develop those skills? And so we're using tools like this to help, our workforce understand, the problems before they get displaced, and then start to train themselves earlier. And we think that kind of proactive approach is something more companies are going to need to deploy to make sure they're preparing their workforce appropriately for AI. Because if a company takes a view that they can flush and replace their employees, I think they're going to be in tough shape in this age of innovation that we're in. I think every company needs to figure out the right learning platforms to invest in their people, so that their people make the journey with them. And that's why we're investing $1 billion a year in training Accenture to continue to invest in the people and move them along.
So this technology that you're talking about, of assessing people's skills and their adjacent skills that they can move into, Is that internal Accenture technology, or is it coming from some other startup or somewhere else?
It's internal technology right now. To be clear, it's still kind of early stages. This is a good example of that bottom-up innovation. We didn't ask anybody to do this. Somebody came up with the idea and just started doing it with somebody in India, in our lab in India. So a good example of the bottom-up innovation. It's a great idea, but it came from just the culture of innovation.
Well, I would be very curious to see what it produces and to what extent it scales.
Yeah, no, that's what we're working on right now. To be clear, it's still beta. We're still playing around.
Right.
I'll use it as an example. But I think there's a huge entrepreneurial opportunity there in general around this reskilling issue. I'm surprised I haven't seen more people tackling the issue of skills and reskilling.
It's a very hard problem.
Yeah, it's a hard problem, but there are some like Upskill, if you know Upskill, who's looking at how do you kind of train people more effectively using virtual reality, as equip people to use virtual and augmented reality. I think that's one interesting area where we've actually applied AI to help reskill. We've worked with a very large manufacturer to use augmented reality for some of their lower skilled workers to help them learn their job tasks faster and get to best practice capability more quickly. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, again, equipping a manufacturing worker with an augmented reality capability to learn their job faster. I think there's a lot of opportunities like that we're just not investing enough in. That is where there's a great 1 million by 1 million kind of opportunity there for more innovation. Yeah,
we need to bring that into the consciousness of our community. I think as an area to tap into. One of my hypotheses is that further out, and this is not within the next 5 years, I don't think, but somewhere in the next whatever number of years, 20, 30, 50, even 100, but somewhere around there are going to be implants that go into the brain and produce that kind of reskilling and retooling effect. Have you thought about that or looked into that?
Yeah, it's more in the realm of the prediction or guessing at this stage, but or extrapolating based on things. I think it's probably closer than what you said. I think it's probably in the order of 2 decades before we have some of that technology. And I think right now it sounds kind of foreign. Like who would want to plug in, kind of a memory USB plug-in to your brain? But I think there's a lot of ways we augment ourselves with drugs, medical treatments,
exactly.
All sorts of things. You can view education as an augmentation in a lot of ways. And a lot of what's acceptable changes culturally very quickly.
Yes.
It's what seems impossible now may seem commonplace 10, 20 years from now. So I think my guess is that's probably a couple decades, probably not the end of the century before we're in that kind of realm. But I think that it'll be great for humanity and great for the human race in terms of what it equips us to do. The ethical challenge we have to deal with is how do we equitably distribute that kind of capability so it doesn't increase inequality, but that it helps reduce inequality and helps improve overall access to to knowledge and information, jobs and such. So we have some the challenges that we have with AI today are kind of a foreshadowing of some of those other challenges we'll have down the road as well.
Is this in your corporate innovation framework? Are these kinds of technologies showing up in projects already?
Well, I would say they're not directly in projects yet in the way we just talked about. So direct to kind of neurological enhancement, not in the work we're doing, but it's in our research. We do some more far-reaching research on trends, and that's something we're watching and we have researchers looking at. I would say it's not directly in the work we're doing to bring to reality today, but there are some really interesting startups out there doing things, and we're working with some of these companies. There's one startup called Neuropace that has an implant for epilepsy patients that can track your brain signal, and it'll learn your patterns of what patterns are going to lead to seizure. It learns over time, machine learning and such, and it can use neurostimulation to send a signal and try to head off the the seizures for epilepsy patients. And if I remember correctly, they have something like a 40% reduction in seizures, in improving continuously, which is very profound. And that's an implant, that they're using to do that.
One of my close friends died 2 years ago from an epileptic seizure, and
oh, you're kidding? Yeah.
It's a very real issue. But I think the reason it would be of great interest for you and for me is because of the kinds of issues that we just talked about of displacement, where if you can actually, let's say a company brings in a technology that goes and displaces 1 million people across different, organizations, how about taking those 1 million people and putting some sort of an implant or transplant in their brains and upgrading them to a different skill set? That if that's viable, then there will be a very good question of why not.
Yeah, well, I think, Shramana, we may be writing a new Black Mirror episode right now. It sounds like a good one to tackle.
All right. This is a fascinating conversation. We can continue, I'm sure, but why don't we adjourn for now? And if you want to continue the conversation in the Thought Leaders in AI series, based on this conversation, I have some ideas, and I will exchange notes with you offline, and maybe we'll do another segment.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully you got a picture that. I mean, I think for everybody, I think what you're doing with 1Mby1M is fantastic, because we need more innovation, and the challenge for every company we deal with is access to innovation. They all want to innovate faster. We're in an era where innovation is what's differentiating companies in every single industry we work with, and that's, again, we view Accenture as a platform for innovation to help with that. So I think it's great what you're doing to try to accelerate and stimulate more innovation. So I would love to engage more and talk more with the community that you've assembled.
Sounds great. As a concluding comment, I have to share this joke with you. When I first designed the 1Mby1M curriculum, we've built this program around a very powerful online curriculum. In the introduction to the curriculum, I wrote that, hey, address to all our entrepreneurs, that currently we do not have a technology. We're working on a chip which can be implanted that has all of this knowledge that's sitting in my brain and can be implanted into your brain so that you immediately start off at a different level. But currently we don't have that technology ready. Of course, this was 8 years ago, and I really had not thought at that point that we would be having this conversation that we just had, where we are really seeing somewhere in the 20-30 year time frame that this may actually become a reality. So it's really fascinating.
Very fascinating.
So audience, thank you for listening. As you know, you have the option of coming to any of our public roundtables any week. 1Mby1M.com, 1Mby1M.com. Go to the free public roundtables navigation button and go register to pitch or to attend, and we will work with you on your projects and give you feedback on how to accelerate your ventures, how to remove your roadblocks, and it's a safe working session. So see you soon. See you back at one of these podcasts as well. Thank you for coming.